Hello, everybody, and welcome to Decoding the WSL, the podcast dedicated to the stats and facts in the WSL. I am your host, Sam Biccarino. It's currently Monday, 26th of January, as we're coming to you. So we've got a full cohort of WSL games played this weekend and quite a lot to go into. At least 2/3 of us on the pod today are going to be looking forward to it. Someone that might not be looking forward to it quite so much is our Spurs resident, Jacob Bernstein. Jacob, how are we doing this Monday night?
Yeah, not so good. I've had like 6 months of positivity. Like, it's been amazing coming on the podcast, and I feel like I've been brought back to reality with yesterday's result against Liverpool, sadly.
Yeah, to be honest, when we did the preview pod last week, we gave one North London club a chance of winning, and it wasn't Arsenal. So yeah, I do feel a bit bad for you, but both myself and the other person on the pod tonight, Tom Maher, we're feeling a bit more joyous, aren't we?
Yeah, wow. The cat amongst the pigeons, wasn't it, this weekend? Yeah, so very excited to get into it.
Or the cat amongst the chickens for any Traitors fans out there. Let's get into the football, though. We obviously had a full 6 games on this weekend, which was fantastic to see. It was a commando weekend in the WSL. Of course, no draws. How many points have Everton earned at home this season? Well, that's still none, as Brighton won 1-0 on Friday night. Rene's Reds ran rampant as Slager's got her first win against Chelsea to give Bompastor the Blues. Liverpool kept it going until the very Enderby. Star-studded crowd watched on as City grabbed a late win to extend their winning streak to 12 against London City Lionesses. Kirsty Hansen tried to haunt her former side, but the Devils could not be scared, Jess making her park on the game with a goal and an assist to help United to a win. And Hanshaw nailed it for the Hammers to leave the home fans screaming for fuck's sake as the Leicester struggle to score again. But we're going to start today's pod with the game at Goodison. Everton 0, Brighton 1 on Friday night. Kangovic with the only goal of the game. She turned in a pass from Kiko Seiko, who today has signed a new contract. Very good news for Brighton fans out there. But this was not one for the ages. I didn't have anything to do on Friday night, so I thought I'd tune into this. And to be honest, I still wish that I didn't, because it really wasn't a good watch. Not a lot happened. There was one person from this game got in our team of the week, Chamaka Ndozi, which I think kind of shows how the game went, that no outfield players at all deserved a space. But Brighton have now won their last 4 meetings against Everton, 9-2 on aggregate. And I think Everton are really the story from this game, because that's their 3rd loss in a row. It's the longest losing streak in the WSL. They've lost all 6 of their home games so far. They're also the only team that haven't scored in their last 2 games. So nothing's really going well for them, Jacob. And they're now only 1 point away from that bottom spot. And for a team that didn't really seem like they were going to be flirting with that at the start of the season, they now might be the ones finishing last.
Yeah, potentially. I'd be quite concerned for Everton's point of view, especially after the other weekend's results. Obviously, West Ham picking up a win against Leicester and Liverpool picking up the win against Spurs, which means that there's only 2 points now separating 12th and 9th. So Everton really starting to get dragged into the potential relegation playoff place. And yeah, Sam, you mentioned that home form is really an issue. 0 points at home across the season, 0 wins from 6. But look, Everton beat Chelsea away December or November, which is a fantastic performance. Courtney Brosnan was standout in that one, but they haven't been able to kick on. And yeah, 1-0 loss to Brighton at home. I'd be quite concerned. Stats-wise, Everton did control possession. They had 59% of possession. They had 0.95 XG to Brighton's 0.87. So they did dominate both possession and had more XG. And Everton's 2 closest chances of the game. The first one, Chamaka Ndozi actually made a mistake, passed it out to Tony Payne, whose shot was saved by Ndozi, making up for that mistake. And the second one, there was a Pacheco shot, which was wonderfully saved from Ndozi. And those were only Everton's 2 shots on target. So I think they'll be disappointed. They only had 6 shots in the game. So from a creative point of view, they'll probably be quite disappointed. But yeah, another good win for Brighton. So I think it's looking much more positive from them in 5th place.
Yeah, it's one of those I don't really know what's going wrong at Everton, because they've got a good manager, they've got a decent squad. They don't really seem to be a team that should be 1 point away from bottom in the league, but that's the position they're in. Yeah, it wasn't that much of an interesting game, so we're not going to stall on it for long. Let's move over to Saturday's game. Chelsea 0, Arsenal 2 at Stamford Bridge. Beth Mead firing the Gunners ahead before Caldente made it 2 just after the hour mark. Beth Mead's assist for Caldente in this game means she's now joint top for assists in the WSL on 5. A few stats. In this game, Arsenal are now 8 unbeaten, which is the second longest run in the WSL, and it's Renée Slager's first ever win against Chelsea in any competition. When I started watching this, and Arsenal's first win away at Chelsea watching the game since when it was on, because I was playing myself, but when I started watching it on the Women's Football Show, I was expecting a decent amount of highlights. There was one highlight from the first half, which just told me all I needed to know about it, and it wasn't that interesting. But the second half was a bit more interesting. Over 1 XG for both teams in the second half, and it's where all the goals were. And it seems, Tom, you were obviously there, so you're going to know a lot more about this than me, but from the stats and from the highlights, it seems like Arsenal did a really good job of keeping Chelsea quiet, because both teams had 18 shots in this game, but Chelsea only had 1 on target, and that was from about 30 yards out. So am I looking at this right?
I think so. And I mean, Sonia Bonpastor said as much afterwards that, that she essentially said that Chelsea can't play like that and expect to get a better result. One of the things that she said, when you're playing this type of team, I think when you have the ball, you just have to keep the ball for a certain amount of time. And if you don't, essentially, it makes it difficult. Arsenal's confidence grew. And I think that was a pretty good assessment of what happened in the game. I think that Arsenal were really looking, Sleggers had spoken before the game to try about making a fast start, and they did that in both halves of this game, even if they didn't convert it into a goal in the first half. And I do think the first half was very much kind of tit for tat. I didn't think there was much between the two sides. And after halftime, I think Arsenal just came out with they just seemed a lot more desire, a lot more what Sleggers was describing it post-match as clarity in what they needed to do. And I think that Chelsea were really suffering through the middle. I think that Arsenal really were able to control the middle of the park. I think it was a mistake to start Wrighton at centre attack in midfield and to push Vika Kaptein back. I know that was slightly a bit of an enforced move because of the absence of Walsh, who did return to the squad and came on in the second half. But I just think that when Arsenal obviously lost the League Cup semi-final to United, I was covering that game at Meadow Park, and I thought the best player on the pitch in that game was Zigiotti Olma. And I just think those two holding midfielders made it so difficult for Arsenal to create anything of note. They just made it so difficult for Arsenal to break down through the middle and have any space. And Chelsea just didn't make that difficult for Arsenal. I thought Mariona had her best game of the season in this game. Kim Little also was dictating things, and Russo probably played the best. I think I can remember her seeing her and play it was from in the 10 as well. She dictated a lot of the play and straight up was to the non-stop, just with these Arsenal constantly running. I thought Borb, who'd made a big mistake midweek, was really good. She was really, really confident, it seemed, and I think it couldn't go unnoticed, but she had 6 out of 9 accurate long balls, and that really helps Arsenal keep a foothold in the game, because if those long balls aren't accurate, then you're not getting that service to, say, Russo up front, who's, we know, one of the best in the world at holding up the ball. And like, obviously it's Russo who sets up Mead there. If we're looking at the player of the match, there's only one name that can go on that player of the match award, and that's Beth Mead. She was absolutely, I think I can't, I'm finding it hard to remember her playing a better game for Arsenal right now. I'm sure there are, because she has had a lot of great games for Arsenal, but she just, from the very start, she was making challenges, setting that Derby Day tone. Her goal is an excellent finish, and no player won more duels when she was on the pitch. No player made more key passes when she was on the pitch. I just thought she was fantastic. And Arsenal actually could have had a few more in this game as well. And I think something that Renée Sleggers has been talking about a lot recently is that it's kind of become a little bit of a joke, I think, with some of the Arsenal fans, that it's like, being willing to suffer from start to finish. And she talked about that after the game. What she loved about the performance was how the players were willing to suffer, willing to have those difficult moments in the match and still, be able to, be 0-0 at half time and not be thinking of the fact they couldn't score against United in both those games against another elite side, being front-footed, energetic, and still looking to try and find those spaces. And I think that's something that they'll be really delighted about in the Arsenal camp, and especially now, obviously going into Champions Cup. That's going to be a really big thing for where Arsenal are at the moment. If they can win that Champions Cup, then I think that's a really big positive on their season. And I just think this result has been a huge validation for the new contract that Slegger's got this month, and I think that was massively important and needed from an Arsenal perspective.
Yeah, I think there's obviously Arsenal haven't had the season that they probably hoped for, especially the fans would have hoped for in the league so far. So giving Slegger's that contract now almost seemed a little bit odd, but I'd absolutely agree that with a win against Chelsea away, it's certainly looking like a good decision in the end. You mentioned earlier on in there as well about Caldente probably had her best game of the season. When I was putting together the graphic for the team of the week, I just pick out the players that I've already put in on a previous week and put their picture back in. And I was scrolling through. I actually went through twice because I couldn't believe that we hadn't put Mariona in at any point this season. So that was actually the first time she's made one of our team of the week so far, because she's always just been a solid. I think last season she was quite often 8, 9, 10 out of 10. Whereas this season she's just been like a solid 7. She's always performed well. She hasn't really had many bad games, but never sort of a standout game. Whereas, the one on Saturday, looking at her stats, if nothing else, before I'd even watched the highlights, I could see that she was going to be one that was likely to be in the team. Jacob, this result for Arsenal means that they're only 1 point behind Chelsea, and there's actually only 4 points separating second to fifth. Now, obviously, only 2 of those go through to the Champions League places, and Chelsea actually might be a team that might miss out at this rate.
Oh, I'm not sure if I'd go that far, but yeah, I mean, it is quite a damaging defeat for Chelsea. I mean, obviously they are now 9 points behind City, and Sonia Bompastor spoke in her post-match press conference about saying that she thinks the league is over, which I think was an interesting quote, especially because Chelsea do play City next week, and I think that will probably kind of decide whether the title's over or not. Because if Chelsea can win, they'll be 6 points behind City. The momentum could start to swing. But maybe it's a bigger picture from Chelsea. If you kind of look at some of the games where they've dropped points this season, obviously on the weekend against Arsenal, they had 18 shots, but only 1 on target. And that 1 shot on target was a Lucy Bronze long ranger. So in terms of chance conversion, that's quite poor. And it was a similar story in quite a few of their other games. Against Everton, when they lost, they had 30 shots but only 6 on target, and similarly when they drew to Liverpool earlier on the season, 9 shots, 1 on target. So maybe in those games where they just can't quite get over the line, it's because of that clinicality. It's maybe not having the best chance conversion. But I think that you have to give a lot of credit to Arsenal. They were completely dominant. They had lots of chances and were definitely well deserved for the win. And also last season, Arsenal took 0 points from Chelsea. They had 2 losses, whereas this season they've taken 4. I think that is a huge kind of positive to take from Arsenal. You've taken 4 points from the reigning champions. So yeah, I think it will be disappointing from Chelsea, but they've got to bounce back, especially with that game against City on the weekend.
I very much in agreement with you that the match next week is going to be the one that decides whether the league's over or not. I think if City and Chelsea didn't have to play each other again, a 9-point gap, I'd be like, yeah, cool, that's it done. But because they have got to play each other, if Chelsea can do it, which, wait for our preview pod to see if we think we can. That might be something that really kickstarts it. And I'm already getting those visions of Emma Hayes getting Aggie Jones in a headlock, and maybe we'll get that again. Who knows? It'll be, I don't know, Sondy Baltimore will be getting done by Bompastor this time. Let's move over to, I was going to say the other side of North London, but the other away team from North London this week. Jacob, feel free to just disconnect if you want for the next few minutes. Any Spurs fans turn your YouTube off, turn the volume down, whatever. This one was Liverpool 2, Spurs 0, a really tight game until very late on, when Mia Enderby got on the end of Jenna Clark's cross, and then made the most, I think is the nicest way of saying it, of a slip from Evelina Summanen at the restart to nab the ball and slot it past Lisa Kopp for 2-0. Lisa Kopp in the strangest goalkeeper kit combination I've ever seen. If you haven't seen it yet, go have a look at the highlights, because I thought she was still warming up or something as the game was going on. I was like, what is happening? Some stats on this game. Liverpool's first win of the season. They're now as well unbeaten in the last 4 games at home in the WSL, which you wouldn't really expect from a team bottom of the table. 2 clean sheets in 2 games for Jennifer Falk. And yeah, I think Liverpool probably would have ended up winning this game and thought, well, that's going to get us off the bottom because West Ham are only a point ahead. But spoiler, that didn't happen. Liverpool are still sitting at the bottom of the table, but not far off the teams ahead of them. Like Jacob mentioned earlier, there's only 2 points separating 9th and 12th now. So it's very much a bit of a battle in that relegation playoff zone thing. Liverpool have only hosted Spurs 4 times in all competitions. Spurs haven't won any of them. And this was actually the first time that Spurs didn't score in any of these games, which quite surprised me, because I think this is probably Spurs' best spell as a club ever. It's probably the most success, other than maybe that FA Cup run. League-wise, this is probably the best Spurs have played ever. And this is the time where they still can't break that, and it's their worst ever result away at Liverpool. The 4th away game in a row without a win for Spurs. And something I wanted to highlight from both sides is that they had less than half the expected goals on target than the expected goals in this game. So basically what that means is that the teams were having shots, but the players weren't getting the shots on target very often. And that really shows to poor finishing. Obviously, Mia Enderby is someone who, I think she'll even admit she hasn't got the best goal scoring record in the WSL. But this season, I think that's her 3rd goal now, 2nd and 3rd goals. And she was really clinical with the chance she had. She wasn't on the pitch for that long, but really was the one made the difference. But Tom, at the start of that, I mentioned 2 clean sheets and 2 games for Jennifer Falk, and that's really helped Liverpool out. They obviously had Faye Kirby, they've had Rafaela Graffa that's been on and off. They haven't really had anyone that good in the last few years in goal, and now Jenna Falk's come in. She's got 2 clean sheets straight away, and could she just be the missing piece they need?
Yeah, I mean, I think she's had a big impact. She's a really fantastic goalkeeper with a lot of international pedigree and experience. She for years she's been there and thereabouts in the Swedish national team with Zafira Musovic, and then before that with Hedvig Lindahl, these fantastic goalkeepers that Sweden are able to produce. And Jennifer Falk did really well in this game. I mean, I think the main thing that she did well was that fantastic one-on-one save with Sinja Gopse when Gopse comes through. It's actually a fantastic break from Tottenham with Bethany England's headering clear at one end. And then a lovely through ball from Olivia Holt. And it's a brilliant save from Falk to just come out quickly and close the angle. So I think she's going to be a difference maker. I think there's so many in this team that, especially what they've signed in January, I'm so impressed by their window. I think this result looks worse than it is for Tottenham. And I'm not saying that Tottenham won't be disappointed with the defeat, because they absolutely will be. But, if Tottenham play Liverpool in September away, they do not lose 2-0. They just don't. I'm so confident of that. I think this Liverpool were the best Liverpool there has been this season. I think Bergstrom hit the woodwork twice. She looks like a fantastic signing. Chilak looked dangerous as well. She's causing issues. And I'm going to talk about Denise O'Sullivan in midfield. And I think with Denise O'Sullivan, she brings a calmness in the WSL. She brings a calmness to a team. And I think I've seen that with what she does with Ireland for years and years and years, where she has leadership, she has the physicality, she has the vision, style and quality that's hard to describe. And I think that you could really see that in this game. And, I think there was fantastic performances across the pitch. I thought Kerry Holland was absolutely outstanding in this game. Creates a lot of chances for Liverpool, won the most duels as well in this game. And, Shimizu Clark for that opening goal it's a lovely ball from Shimizu in behind, and Clark does so well for a centre-back to try and hook that into the box. And Enderby's exactly where you want your striker to be, even if it's not the most pristine finish. It doesn't matter how it goes in, so long as it does. And obviously it's fantastic to see Enderby. I mean, I think, being honest, I think at times I've felt frustrated that she started matches with Gareth Taylor because she hasn't scored and hasn't looked like scoring. But this is the kind of this is the positive of having competition in the squad. Shellac comes in, you've got Beata Olsen, who's scoring for fun when she's fit. Enderby needs to start scoring, and she does, and she scored in the FA Cup as well. I think that's 4 in 4 games now for her. So that's brilliant. It's just fantastic to see from a young English player. And I also read a brilliant stat as well, that it was the latest a player in the WSL has scored their first goal in a match who then went on to score a brace. So well done, Mia Enderby. And for Liverpool, it's looking really exciting for them for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I like that stat. That's a real, I know exactly what it is, but it feels like it's really pain to actually describe to someone. But sometimes they're my favourite kind of stats. Right, I've left him brewing away. I'm not going to give you any particular question to answer, Jacob. Just off you go.
Look, I think it was a disappointing display from Spurs. It was probably the most disappointing display under Martin Ho this season, because before this Liverpool game, our only losses this season had been a 5-1 loss to City, which is obviously a bit of a smashing, but it's City. A very narrow 1-0 loss to Chelsea, which was from a Kirill screamer, and a 4-2 loss to London City Lionesses, where we competed. So this feels like a bit of an outlier. And look, it was a disappointing performance. And I think you've got to give credit to Liverpool. I thought Liverpool were fantastic and made it really, really difficult for Spurs to play. From the start of the game, Liverpool set out to press Spurs really high up the pitch. And I think this season, Spurs have thrived off kind of getting Olivia Holt on the ball from deep, Olivia Holt picking up the ball and running through players, and she just couldn't do that. As soon as Olivia Holt received the ball in the midfield, the Liverpool midfield and attackers just pressed her so high, and that allowed the ball to turn over really quickly, either through Spurs' bad passing or Liverpool intercepting. And there was a chance, to describe exactly what I'm talking, where Olivia Holt received the ball, tried to turn, was intercepted, and that led straight away to a Liverpool chance. It was Chilag with the shot, and it was saved by Lisa Carr. Tom mentioned all the chances that Liverpool had. I mean, I think they were probably unlucky not to be 1-0 up before they did. As Tom said, Bergstrom had 2 shots that were one off the bar, one off the post. Chilag had a couple of chances in the first half. And then the second half, I thought Kerry Holland looked fantastic. Down the left, Josephine Rybring just couldn't handle her. And there were 2 chances where Kerry Holland was down the left, cut it back, and Cornelia Capox was really unlucky not to score. There were almost 2 identical chances created. And I think ultimately Liverpool deserved the win, and it's cruel from a Spurs perspective that you've kind of got to the 94th minute at 0-0. And if it ends 0-0, you're kind of like, look, it's been a bad performance, but we take the point and move. But it was well played from Liverpool to kind of get that goal in the end. There was tenacity because they had chances in extra time. The Bergstrom shot off the post from close range. There was a Kerry Holland shot off the post from a free kick. But yeah, I think it's a massive win from Liverpool. I think mentality-wise, it will do a lot for them with kind of new signings coming in. I thought Chilag was really impressive. Bergstrom was impressive, and Bergstrom was brilliant in the game against London City last week as well. And I think part of that is obviously the transfers coming in, but also Liverpool had that 6-0 win against London Bees in the FA Cup, and that could have acted as a bit of like relief to kind of gain confidence ahead of some of their WSL games. For Spurs, it's obviously disappointing. Like, look, I've been dreaming of kind of those Champions League spots as the week has gone on, and this feels like a bit of a reality check. But I still think there's a lot to be positive on. I think for Martin Ho, it's just working out kind of what his best starting 11 is now, especially with new signings coming in and players coming back from injury. I think it's just working out how are Gopset and Holt going to fit into the team together. I think in the WSL game so far, we've seen Gopset play in more of a 10 role and Olivia Holt be shifted out wide left. But I know Martin Ho's spoken about Gopset kind of playing in a more 8 role. So if that happens, then Olivia Holt could be put into the 10, which might suit her better. But that does mean that one of Evelina Simon and Audrey Spence might end up dropping out. And again, there's kind of the team selection where Tinker Tamberg has just come back from injury. She came off the bench yesterday against Liverpool. So kind of how does she fit in and how does that work with Beth England? Because we saw kind of sometimes Beth England and Tamberg playing together, sometimes only one of them playing. So I think there's a lot for Martin Ho to think about. But I think all we can say from a Spurs perspective is just pick up again, and we're playing West Ham away on the weekend. So if we can get a result and fix that, I think it'll be kind of back to positivity, hopefully.
Yeah, I think a game like West Ham away is probably what you want after that. It'd be kind of a bit of a nightmare if you're having to go to a Chelsea away or a City away or something like that. So yeah, for your sake, I hope it goes well. Obviously, as a fan of another team that's trying to go for the Champions League spots, I hope it goes terribly and you lose. But we'll move on to that when we get to the preview pod. 3 other games kicked off on Sunday. I was going to say Sunday afternoon, Sunday 11:55. One of those was London City Lionesses 1, Man City 2. This one had, I think I saw more about who was in the stands game rather than the actual game itself, because there was Alex Pateas, there was Patry, there was Beth Mead, there was Caldente, and there was someone else, can't remember who it was. And yeah, everything that I saw on the social media was all about that. Nothing about the fact that this was actually, from the look of it, quite an entertaining game. Scoring early on, she is really in good form at the moment. Freya Godfrey scored an equaliser in the second half, which was really good to see. But Bunny Shaw, obviously, she is inevitable. She was in the right place at the right time. About 5 minutes on the end to score the winner. Daniel van der Donk's first home game for London City Lionesses. Obviously, she signed in the summer, but through injury, she's not played until 2026. She played last week away from home, came off the bench, I believe, and then this was her first home game. So that was nice to see her getting the home strip on for the first time. Man City, however, are very much the story here. They're on a 12-game winning streak. No other team in the WSL is on a winning streak longer than one. They've won their last 5 away from home, and Bunny Shaw is now up to 17 goal involvements in the WSL, and we have played 13 games so far. For reference, last season in the WSL, obviously she missed about half the season, so she missed half the games, obviously. But the most goal involvements in the league last year was Elizabeth Turland and Vivasei, I think off the top of my head, joint on 15, and she's already broken that, and we've got another 9 games to go. The only player with at least half of the amount that Bunny Shaw has is her teammate Viv Miedemar on 9, which kind of goes to show that Man City, unsurprisingly, are the league's top scorers, and this is where their goals are coming from. London City Lionesses as well are winless in their last 4, which is the longest winless streak in the WSL. Jacob, obviously they've changed their manager just before Christmas, I think it was, or just after, around that time anyway, which was a bit of a shock to most of us because I didn't personally really think they needed to. But they have. They're against Man City now. But do you think this is a decision that's going to end up going well for them, or is it not really going to make much difference, or worse?
Yeah, I'm not sure it will make much difference. Like, I think maybe in the short term it won't make much difference, just because in terms of achievement for London City Lionesses this season, I think they'll probably end up finishing probably 6th or as best, depending on how Spurs do in the rest of the season. But I think they will take a lot of positivity from this game in London City. They've competed and were very, very unlucky against the team that are top of the WSL. Izzy Goodwin was so unlucky. She had 2 shots, which were the biggest chance of the game for London City, bar the goal. One of her shots she was through on goal, and it was saved by Yamashita, who tipped it onto the post. And the other one was a header that hit the bar. So she had 0.68 xG from those 2 chances. So very unlucky. And if either one of those go in, it's a different story. And yeah, I think that they are winless in 4, but I think they only sit to 1 point off Brighton, who are in 6th. So I think if they kind of can separate the performance and the result and take the performance into their next couple of games, and I think there can be a lot of positivity for London City Lionesses moving forward. But ultimately, it's the Bunny Shaw show, and when you have someone in your team who has scored 13 WSL goals already and is as clinical as Bunny Shaw is, then I think that's where London City Lionesses have got unlucky, and it's a late but crucial winner for City.
Yeah, it's one of those that it's not Bunny Shaw doing anything that was like overly spectacular. She's not rising seemingly 3 meters in the air like she does sometimes, or it's not absolutely putting a rocket of a shot in from distance or anything like that we've seen her do before, holding off defenders, anything like that. It was just one of those striker's instincts. She's in the right place at the right time. And if anyone was in that place, I think they would have scored it. But it's part of being an elite level striker that she is one of those that's in that position at the right time. But yeah, Tom, obviously, Bunny Shaw is a fantastic player. Do you think Pateas might have learnt a thing or two from the stands?
Yeah, almost if you're a London City defender in that moment, you'd be better off trying to score yourself. You'd be less likely to concede than pay straight to Bunny Shaw. But yeah, I think she could have. I think we could all learn a bit from Bunny Shaw in terms of finishing. I mean, in the words of Kirsten Kasperai's Instagram post after this match, sweet Caroline, Shaw, which I really enjoyed.
Her voice,
I thought that was very, very good. Very, very good. And if the City fans don't sing that next weekend, I'll be very disappointed. But yeah, I think Bunny Shaw, obviously, she's just fantastic. Herself and Miedema had the joint most key passes in this game. And when you've got players like Carolyn as well on top of the two of the best strikers probably ever in the WSL era, it's you're not far away from understanding why they're top of the table at the moment. I don't think this is by any means a vintage performance from City. I think, like as Jacob was kind of alluding to earlier, I think London City Lionesses would feel disappointed they didn't get anything out of this game. That London City had 3 big chances and Manchester City had 2 big chances. And how many times have we been able to say that this season, where a team playing Manchester City has had more big chances than them? There was some standout performance from London City Lionesses. Like I thought Alana Kennedy was really good against her former club. She's brought in to try and take on and deal with Bunny Shaw, and obviously it's not gone well in the second goal. But before that, she was the player who'd won the most aerial duels in this match, Alana Kennedy, and she had 6 out of 6 accurate long balls as well. And I think that's so important against a team like Manchester City. But they get the job done. I thought they looked quite lackadaisical almost in the second half, but it's just, this is what they do at the moment. And Andre Jurglitz, that I think City posted his pre-match team talk, and he said, we will find a way to win, was one of the last things he said, and they absolutely did, and I think that's kind of the mentality that they have right now, and it's very similar to Chelsea's kind of unstoppable mentality last season, I think.
Yeah, he was right. They do find a way to win. Yeah. It does help when you have people like Miedema and Shaw, and when you've got players of the quality that someone like Grace Clinton is struggling for minutes, you've got a good side. Let's move on to Villa 1, Manchester United 4. Julia Zigiotti-Olmi opening the scoring with an Olympico, which, I thought was pretty poor from Villa. I didn't really feel like that should have gone in. but I'll let you watch that one back. Kirsty Hansen equalised a couple of minutes later with some quick feet and a shot that caught Valentin's Joyce off guard, and then 3 second-half goals in the space of 8 minutes from Turland off the bench, Jess Park, and then new signing Hannah Lundqvist made it 4-1 to United in the end. I didn't see this one live because I was actually at the Leicester game that we'll get onto next, but it seemed like Man United weren't spectacular. They were decent. They got, I think it was about 2.8 XG in this game, or XG on target, I should say, but it was just a poor showing from Villa. Jacob, I don't know if you saw much of this, but I just thought they looked really poor defensively, basically. And especially from watching the women's football show, they were just sort of pulled apart in places. Man United were looking good going forward, and it was just sort of like, why is there no Villa player there?
Yeah, exactly. But I think you have to give a lot of credit to United's attack. I think to score those 3 goals in 8 minutes in the second half late on is a big achievement. And also it was especially the second and third goal were absolute quality. The second one was Mallard headed it down to Turland, who hit it. I think it was just about on the half volley. I think it hit the ground before she hit it. Maybe the keeper could have done better. It was actually Ellie Roebuck in goal. She came in for her second league start, and I think she'll probably be disappointed, not only because she's conceded 4 goals, but also that Ziggy Olma goal from a corner. I think she'll be disappointed. There's a bit of a mix-up between her and the defenders. And the third United goal, again, Mallard, the creator, passing it to Jess Park, and Jess Park had such composure to dribble through the defence and score. That's 1 assist and 1 goal for Jess Park on Sunday. She had actually gone 5 games without a goal contribution, but she's now 3rd in the league for combined goals and assists with 8, which is really impressive. She obviously was really, really good at the beginning of the season, so it's kind of good to see her getting back contributing. Villa will be disappointed, of course, kind of conceding 4 goals at home, especially because in the reverse fixture they won 1-0. And against United, and they've kind of been renowned this season for having quite a strong defence. They've kept 5 clean sheets, so I think they'll be disappointed. But United, strong result considering both Spurs and Chelsea lost, so that leaves United 1 point behind Arsenal, 2 points behind Chelsea, and back in the mix for Champions League.
Yeah, and United now won 13 of the 14 games against Villa, so that 1-0 win earlier in the season was a bit of a buck to the trend that it wasn't quite what we normally see. And I, for one, because I like to see the underdogs do well, was sort of hoping that, I don't really have an affinity with either club, but I just like to see the ones that sort of lower down the league do well. And I was hoping that might spur Villa on in this game, but no, unfortunately not. Tom, I want to ask you about Ellie Roebuck. Sabrina D'Angelo has been okay this season. She's not been fantastic. And I think that was kind of why Ellie Roebuck was brought in today, because Sabrina D'Angelo's not been putting in. She's not been terrible, but she's not been that good. I personally thought Ellie Roebuck was going to be better than D'Angelo when she came in. Do you think this is going to be a case of maybe Ellie Roebuck's not at the level she once was, or do you think this is just a one-off?
I kind of think that maybe Natalia Arroyo had in her mind the mistake that was made at Villa Park by Sabrina D'Angelo, where she passed the ball to Fuka Sonoda against Brighton in the last WSL outing. And then I thought Ellie Roebuck had a really good performance against Arsenal as well, like a really brave performance and a lot of leadership in that game in the FA Cup, even if Villa went on to lose it. So I wonder whether that was kind of, and maybe against each other, show that there's some competition too. I think Roebuck should do better with the second goal for sure. I'm not 100% sure that she made any huge mistakes after the second goal. I think the first and the second, obviously, are questionable. But I do think United were very good in that second half, and it really was a game of 2 halves. Neither side had a big chance in the first half, and then United had 4 in the second. And they actually missed 3 of them. So, that shows the kind of differences in how that game panned out eventually. And yeah, I thought it was really interesting listening to Natalia Arroyo after the game, because she pinpointed kind of a couple of her key players were on yellow cards around the 60th minute. So that's Ocean Deslandes and Miri Taylor. And she decided to sub both of them. And she felt that was kind of directly influenced the fact that they were then out of position, out of shape then in those 8 minutes. And I thought that was a really interesting insight into that kind of the elite head coach's mentality. United obviously took advantage of that and took advantage of any kind of confusion in the back line. And so Jenna Nysong obviously came off the bench at 2-1. It was a bit of an unfortunate debut for her, but I'm sure she'll do a lot better at Villa as the weeks go by and she gets a bit more used to the team. Hand it to United. It's been a fantastic week for them. First ever League Cup final. They'll be enjoying that in Bristol in March. And, Turland has kind of stepped up and shown what she's about this week with 2 brilliant goals. And she probably should have had another against Villa. I'm not sure it was offside. That the goal was ruled out for 5-1. And obviously Hannah Lundqvist as well, who's a really exciting player and somebody that Mark Skinner has spoken about being able to play invert a little bit more than Riviere. So I think he really sees these two as different profiles of right back that give Manchester United different dynamics in attack. And I think you could really see that in this game, that she offered something different to Riviere, and Aston Villa struggled to deal with that. I wouldn't be overly concerned for Villa. I do think that for large portions of this game, they matched United, but United have a level that they can get to that I don't think is Villa have right now.
Yeah, I think it's one that if Villa played well in this game, then I think Man United may still have won because they are just a better team. They played well on the day. I think it just might have been a less flattering scoreline, basically. Let's move on to the final game of the weekend, or the only one we haven't covered anyway. Leicester 1, West Ham 2. I was actually at this game. I also met up with Matt and Charlie from Why Away She that have been on the podcast, friends of the pod. So nice to meet them because I've never actually met them in person. I've met them quite a few times online. So, shout out to you two if you're watching. Verena Hanshaw opened the scoring in the first half of this game with an absolute peach of a free kick. The stadium just went silent after that, which was kind of funny as a neutral. Martinez made it 2 with a really good individual effort. She was very good in this game. Leicester got one back late on, even Nystrom turning it into her own net while basically trying to stop Alicia Lehmann. I think she probably would have scored if Nystrom hadn't put it in herself. Nystrom almost scored another own goal right at the death, lobbing her keeper in injury time, but Kinga Shemek saved it with what I think ended up being the last touch of the game. Although injured herself in the process, there was then physios came on. I don't know what happened there because we left before the physios sort of stopped treating her. So hopefully she's going to be okay. I haven't actually seen anything since that. West Ham's first away points of the season, I think, is quite important from this game. They'd lost all 6 before this. Obviously, Leicester are a team sort of around them, Jacob. If you're going to pick up points somewhere, I guess for West Ham, picking up points against Leicester is a good team to do it against.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a huge win for them, especially with Liverpool picking up the win against Spurs. It's a new era for West Ham with Rita Guarino coming in over the winter break. And I think if you look at West Ham's next 3 fixtures, they've got Spurs at home, Brighton at home, Everton away. Obviously Spurs and Brighton are good sides, but it does present an opportunity for West Ham to start picking up some points and gaining some momentum. And I think the main reason they won the game is because of 2 moments of quality. That Hanshaw free kick was 0.07 XG, brilliant finish, left-footed curler, and Martinez with a moment of brilliance as well, cutting in from the left-hand side and curling it into the right-hand corner, 0.04 XG. And yeah, I think we spoke a lot last season about the brilliance of the West Ham attack, and obviously they've been a bit disappointing this season, but that is Martinez's 4th WSL goal of the season. She started picking up some form recently, following on from her 10 goals that she scored last season. And I think West Ham lost 5-0 to Chelsea last week, but that was Rita Guarino's first game. You're playing Chelsea away. It's difficult. So I think hopefully they can carry the momentum now into some of their next games and things can start looking up for them.
Yeah, they obviously beat, I think it was Newcastle in the Cup as well. So things are looking up a little bit for West Ham. I want to talk a little bit about Olivia McLaughlin in this game. She's one that I think there was a bit of clamour for her at the start of the season because she sort of obviously came over from Rangers, was looking really good for a few games, then just sort of became a bit average. This game, I wanted to highlight her because Leicester looked really uncomfortable in this game. They were obviously given all the possession from West Ham, and they're both teams that don't play with a lot of possession. Leicester actually had the least possession on average in the league this season. But McLaughlin and Tierney in central midfield really ran the show. They were always the ones that sort of were trying to come pick the ball up when the defenders didn't really seem like they knew what to do in terms of trying to distribute it out. And yeah, I thought McLaughlin in particular looked really good in this game. Her pass completion was really good, especially in the first half. Her actual sort of taking it upon herself to go and get the ball. Okay, let's go and move it up the pitch. Let's go switch it from left to right, anything like that. She stood out for me, especially in that first half. I think she'd be a player that would go really well on a side that does have a lot of possession. I think Leicester are potentially the worst side for her in the league to be joining, other than like a top 4 side where she won't get many minutes. But I could, see her moving to like a Brighton or something like that in the future to get a bit more pitch time. Something else I want to highlight in this game, just because it was relatively, it was something Matt spoke to me about because I saw him at half time, was just the King Power didn't really know what they were doing in this game. It was the first game of Alicia Lehmann, the most followed female player in the world. It was their biggest attendance of the season, other than when Arsenal came to visit. And we all know that when Arsenal goes somewhere, that's when all the fans go. It was also, and I didn't realise this until half time, Leicester's first game where you can drink in the stands. There was no like advertising or pushing for this at all. As someone that, I don't go there that often, but I'd have thought when I buy my ticket or when I'm there, I'd see something about it. But no, they also halved the amount of food and drink stalls there were. So there was more attendance, you could drink in the stands, and then they just halved it. They ran out of food and things like that. And it just became like quite a poor experience. And I think that was all quite avoidable. And yeah, I just wanted to point that out because King Power do better if anyone's listening that has anything there. Because some of the other teams in the WSL just do the right normal thing. If you think you're going to get some more people in that game, then you open some more kiosks, you open another stand, you do whatever you need to do, normal sorts of things. Basically, they just got loads more stewards out, and that was about it. It was very strange. Other than that, a good experience. But shall we move on to the actual game? Everyone's favourite game of aerial fantasy. Maybe second favourite game after Know Your Stat. But aerial fantasy. The Decoding the WSL League is still topped by Stanley, their team Villanova. They got 77 points this week, which is quite a lot. And I also want to give them an extra shout out this week because Stanley is now first in the world. So the person at the top of the Decoding the WSL League is first in the world now. So if anyone's going to take the sort of tickets to a free game or a WSL shirt that you get for winning the Decoding the WSL League from them, you're going to have to be literally be the best player in the world to do that. So very well done, Stanley. Let's see if we can keep it up for another 9 weeks. The best score in game week 13 in the Decoding the WSL League was Mela Hocker's team. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong, but the team, may the Fox be with you. They're 22nd in the league. They actually overtook you, Tom, this week. Sorry about that. 82 points, which was only 9 points off the best score in the world. They had Bunny Shaw captain for 18, Jess Park got 12, Bergstrom got 9, among quite a few others. So that will be a bit painful for Merla is that they have 6 points on the bench. 9 for Falk, 10 for Lundqvist, and 7 for Godfrey. And if they started them over Shemek, Kasper and O'Sullivan, that'd have been an extra 15 points as well. So could have been the best in the world this week if they just made those small changes. But it is what it is. I also had Freya Godfrey on the bench and could have had a lot more points. I had Shamak and Adozi on the bench as well because I wasn't expecting Lisa Kopp to not keep a clean sheet this weekend. But there we go. It is what it is. And Jacob, I want to give you a shout out as well because you're now in the top 10 in the Deco in the WSL League.
I am indeed. I've had a couple of really good weeks in a row. I'm 27th overall, and I think my biggest achievement is I'm 4th in the Second Chance League. So doing really well in the I think 3 weeks since the Second Chance League started. But yeah, a successful week. I put Jess Park back in, and she obviously got 12 points. And my biggest success of the week is I gambled on Borba starting for Arsenal, and she obviously got a clean sheet and visionary point. So yeah, I need to make some goalkeeper changes, but I got away with that one.
That's a huge gamble to get Borba on. You, unfortunately, although I said that you've got overtaken this week, you have got away from me a bit in our little mini league this week. 59 points, pretty good.
Yeah, I was happy. I brought in Bergstrom, who got me the visionary points and the clean sheet. I was fairly happy with it. I think I'm sitting somewhere like 80th in the world at the moment overall, so not too bad.
I'm 190 in the world, 193, I think. So yeah, not doing great. I bought my Laetitia in this week because I thought that would be a solid clean sheet option. Man United have got a good run of games as well, so I was pretty happy with that. And Naomi Mouchon, who came off the bench for an assist.
Let's be real here, Sam. 190 in the world is very, very good. You're saying not too great. That's amazing, incredible.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point actually, because I can't remember how many. There's like 20,000 or something people do it. So 193 is very good. I think I was really trying last year to stay in the top 200. It's just because you two are doing a lot better. It's really annoying. So I'll just Izzy, I need you back on. Izzy was supposed to be on tonight. Unfortunately, she's ill, so she had to take a break. But she even outscored me this week as well, so she's climbing up. Maybe she'll overtake me in a few weeks' time. But imagine that if we all got in the top 200, how fantastic that would be. We'll talk a bit more about aerial fantasy and who we're going to look at for the next week, because obviously it's only next weekend. In the preview pods, we'll get to that. But that's all we've got for you for today's review show. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Jacob. And thank you, viewer, for tuning in to Decoding the WSL, or listener if you're on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube as well. Go hit follow, subscribe, like, all that good stuff. Leave a comment, leave a 5-star review if you're on Spotify, etc. Anything that basically gets in contact with us and helps us grow the pod, especially those reviews, because they really boost us up the rankings and getting us in front of people that haven't heard about us yet, to go and help us grow the community as much as you can. But yeah, thank you, Tom. Thank you, Jacob. And we'll speak to you at the next one.